So those of you who've joined us in the last few minutes, you'll see it's not just me on my own, it's also Nicholas Best, who's the Group Commercial Director, who's joining me this afternoon to co-host this webinar. So it's a nice change to just you guys just looking at me, which I'm sure you'll all be delighted with to have someone else look at as well. So I think we'll start now because we've got quite a few people who have joined us. Thank you very much again for joining us again this afternoon's webinar after yesterday's mishap, but hopefully you'll all find it useful. The presentation will last about 15 to 20 minutes, and please feel free to write any questions you may have as we go through the presentation, and just write them into either the chat box or the Q&A. And if we don't answer them as we go along, we'll make sure we check them at the end and make sure all questions are answered. So the Latitude Hotel Group, we started working with the group a couple of years ago, and really, we started off initially as their PR agency, and now we help them do all the sales as well for the UK and European market. And as with all our clients, the reason why we love working with the Latitude Hotel Group so much is that we really have become part of the team. We work with them on everything. In fact, even this morning, I was writing a press release about an amazing fundraiser Nicholas has decided to do at Lat 15 in Lusaka next weekend, which is a 24-hour swimathon. And just really for us, they represent everything that small marketing is about. And in fact, they have got a very, very strong CSR, corporate social responsibility focus. It's really integral to everything they do. They're small, they're boutique, they really reflect the local artisans and culture of where they're located. And what's really cool about the hotel group is they are city hotels, yet they're totally different in terms of what you would imagine in Africa. You'd be, even to get these kind of city hotels in a kind of pioneering city like London would be quite unusual, but to find them in Lilgonwe Lusaka or Kampala is just very, very unusual and really, really exciting. So we're just going to start with where the story started, which was Latitude 13 in Lilgonwe. Those of you who may know James Lightfoot from Kayamaya, he was actually the founder of the Latitude Hotel concept with his business partner Nick Brown. And what happened was when they set up Kayamaya, they used to get a lot of their guests asking them where they could stay in Lilongwe as they pass through, because obviously most people going to the three cities, Kampala, Lusaka or Lilongwe, would have to overnight due to the way the international flight connections work. And actually James and Nick were just really frustrated. There was nothing, nowhere that they could really recommend in Lilongwe that would really reflect the kind of service and quality that the guests would find elsewhere on their wider safari circuit. So they decided that actually they instead were going to launch their own city hotel, and thank goodness they did, because what they've created is something that's just so unique to Africa and really complements an African safari itinerary. And as Nicholas said to me the other day, what he always says about the Latitude hotels is they're really a perfect decompression for particularly guests who maybe are coming from international well, most people will be internationally, but where the time differences are so great, so they'll have jet lag. So particularly maybe Australia or the States. From the UK and Europe, it's not so bad because obviously we don't have the time difference. But really, for guests to arrive and then go straight onto a safari is quite full on, because as you know, safaris are quite exhausting with early morning starts. So just to have a 24 hours or 48 hours just decompressing after their flight, or even on the return before they fly home, is just a really great thing to offer. But also, I think what's amazing about when they stay at Latitude is they're not just decompressing, they're really getting an insight into the local culture from those city destinations. The other thing about the three Latitude hotels is they're really quite small. So as you can see here, this is Latitude 13. So there are 20 what we call long stay apartments or junior suites, and I'll show you now why they can be both. But there's like 32 rooms in total for the properties for 13 and 15, and Latitude 0, which is our new property in Kampala, which opened in October last year, is 47. So they're very, very small for city hotels. And a variety of different accommodation options. I'm not going to go through each different room type because I don't want to overwhelm you. What I want to do now is just to give you an idea roughly of the price point and just give you a flavour of the properties. This price point here, this price you see here is for double occupancy, and that's on bed and breakfast rate. So Lilongwe, where it's located within Lilongwe, is Lilongwe, when I went there last year, I was really amazed about what a lovely, green, lush city it is. It doesn't feel like a city, it feels like a town. It's very, you feel very safe, and very beautiful, very manicured. The gardens are amazing. So it's a really lovely city to actually spend the night in. It's not a kind of, you know, some of the African cities can be very kind of almost the speed and intensity and almost quite threatening, but Lilongwe is a very slow pace of life. It's a lovely, lovely city to spend some time in. And Latitude 13 is, like all our hotels, located in a very green, leafy suburb. All the hotels have chosen their location really, so they have space and they have, you know, big gardens, and it's lovely and green and lush. So you actually don't really feel like you're in a city once you're staying in the hotels. So Latitude 13 opened in 2012, and it originally was a Japanese ambassador's house they took over. It then was so successful that then 2 years later they expanded and they bought the property next door. And you'll see now, when they bought the property next door, that's when they created the kind of very kind of typical Latitude style of big, white, lofty buildings now, big, light windows, and that's what Latitude 15 and Latitude 0 have gone on to very, very much be like. So the other key thing, and obviously I'm ranting away, but Nicholas, do interrupt me whenever you want. But the other thing that's really integral to Latitude Hotels, and what you'll find at all of them, is really this link back to this very strong corporate social responsibility. They work very, very closely with the local communities to not only reflect the art and culture of those local communities, but also to use them, not only in terms of their supply chains, but a lot of their interior design has been done by an amazing women's group from Lilgonwe Island on Lake Malawi. It was actually set up by Susie Lightfoot, so that's James Lightfoot's wife. And they've done most of the interior design through the properties, and you'll see the kind of beautiful signature pieces like these glass chandeliers, and you'll see copper chandeliers that are really in each of the properties. But what's nice is they're all unique in their design. Even the rooms are different in their design. So you don't have that kind of cookie cutter, one size fits all. They're all very different. So if you go and stay at different hotels, you'll definitely know you're in a Latitude hotel, but they're very, very different and very reflective of that local culture. So these are our junior suites. These are 2 stories. You have this little apartment kind of concept where you have kitchenette and TV lounge room downstairs and then bedroom upstairs. These are the very traditional style of the Latitude's kind of architecture. So big, white, lofty buildings, lots of light. What's lovely about all the hotels is they have, because they're such a part of the local community, they'll always have local events going on. The restaurants are open to the locals. So there's always a buzz when you stay there. You're not, someone said they can only see me and not Nicholas. That's not, it might be you have to change, on top of the video you have 3 different icons, and you might want to click the one with 2 on it, and then hopefully you can see both of us. But hopefully when Nicholas talks, he might appear.
You're not missing anything, believe me.
So what's really lovely is when you're staying in the hotel, it's very much, there's a really nice buzz to it, because locals will come in and they'll have dinner, they'll have lunch there, and they'll sometimes use the swimming pool as well. So there's always, you don't feel like you're the only one staying in the hotel. You're very much, you get a kind of insight into local life. The food is, at Latitude 13 they have one dining restaurant, and they also have their signature pizza oven as well. So the food it's international, it's light, it's using local produce wherever possible, but because most of their guests are international travellers, they have, obviously the very much international cuisine. And then this beautiful bar area with these amazing signature glass and copper chandeliers. And this is really a really cool place to come to sit and have it's a very, very cool local, cool vibe. It's a nice place to sit and have a drink at the end of the day. And also, if you're a gym bunny, there's a gym. All the hotels have gyms, as is necessary, but maybe not always used. But so particularly, I think they have quite a few business travellers coming to stay at Latitude Hotels. I think because they feel that whilst it's a city hotel, it's not a big corporate, so it's very much kind of a family feel to it. So obviously, when you've got business travellers, things like gyms and things are even more in demand. But one thing that really flows throughout all the properties is this amazing interior design, which just makes it so different for city hotels. So moving on to Latitude 15 in Lusaka, one thing I forgot to mention, but you can probably guess, is all the hotels are named after the latitude line that they are on. So Latitude 13, Latitude 15, and then Latitude 0. So Latitude 15 is Lusaka, and this opened in 2015. And again is a small property, 32 guest rooms and 3 two-bedroom suites, which are perfect for long stay guests. And you often have long stay guests staying there, don't you, Nicholas? Maybe
Yes.
Business travellers who are working on a project and want to stay somewhere for longer. Again, the rates are double occupancy and B&B, so it gives you an idea. Latitude 15 is about a 40-minute drive from the airport, but again, it's in an area of Lusaka that's lovely and green and leafy suburb. There's quite a few, it's quite a diplomatic area, and there's lots of there's some art galleries and cafes. So it's a really nice area to explore. But again, it gives latitude on a plot which is very large and very green and lush and beautiful big gardens. So it's got a very, very chilled vibe to it. And again, lots of different areas for guests to come and relax in, whether in the lounge or the dining area. And what Latitude 15 and Latitude 0 have, which Latitude 13 doesn't, is their private members club, which is called the Other Side Club. So the reason why it's called the Other Side Club is in Latitude 15, they, like we did in Lilgonwe, they were so successful they wanted to expand, and they actually then bought the property next door. And the idea was to create it into this kind of private members club, and they always referred to it as the other side when they were doing it up, developing it. And because it's a property next door, it was the other side. And so hence the reason the Other Side Club, which I think works really well. So it's a private members concept, but it's all guests staying at a hotel are obviously automatically members of the private membership. And so this is the main pool in the main hotel. And then the rooms, and all the rooms are very large and spacious with these lovely big windows with all the light flowing in. And again, it's amazing Kutundu design made by the women on Lilgonwe Island. So lovely beaded cushions, amazing. And again, they're all very different rooms. That's what really amazed me. It's almost like a kind of art gallery you're staying in, where every room has a different piece of art that other ones won't have in it. The care and attention that's been taken in developing the interiors of the properties are just amazing. You've got these incredible feather head dresses on the corridors and different artwork, and yeah, it's a very, very cool place to stay in. And also Latitude 15 and Latitude 0 have this concept called the Works, which are, because quite a few of the guests staying there are business travellers, it's like a hot desking concept, but also these kind of glass grey doors that you see behind are actually offices which local businesses can rent out. So it's a lovely place to work, because it's what I enjoyed about it is you get, there's some really interesting companies renting these offices, and you get a real insight into local kind of Lusaka life and local Lusaka commercial work going on, corporate work going on. And so there's always interesting people kind of working there and working on interesting projects. And the Works is on the same kind of plot as the Other Side Club. So it's slightly separate to the guest area. So if you're a guest staying there, you wouldn't necessarily go into the Works. But if you wanted to go and if you had guests and wanted to maybe go and do some work, then obviously it's a really nice place to go and work, and all guests are welcome to go and use the facilities. So this is the Other Side Club, where they do a lot of different events and live music, and it's a really, really cool place for local people to come and visit, and also guests as well. And what's nice again is it's a real buzz. Like I saw a French agent a few weeks ago, and she was saying she stayed at Latitude 15 before she flew out after a fam trip. And she said she was dancing until 1:30 in the morning with the live music that was going on. She just loved it, really, really enjoyed it. So again, just really cool different places to go and have a drink, to chill out, to enjoy the entertainment or live music. And again, they've got another swimming pool, which is where Nicholas is going to do his 24-hour swimathon that I mentioned earlier, raising money on the 1st of May. So watch this space. We'll let you know more about it. They also have a gym and a spa. And I'm going to now hand over to Nicholas, who can tell you more about Latitude 0 in Kampala, which is the newest member of the family and opened in October last year. So Nicholas, over to you.
Thank you, Anita. I see there's, just before I move on to Latitude 0, I see that there's a question from Kim there. I have some clients with an almost 6-hour layover in Lusaka between Kafue and the South Luangwa. Yes, absolutely. You know, we often have guests either booking a day room if they're leaving their safari a little bit earlier. If their flights are in the evening, for example, come and join us for the day at Latitude. And yeah, I think, you know, going back to what Anita said about those international, particularly the leisure travelers coming through and either having, you know, a night stop at Latitude or even a little day visit, you know, they're always, I interact with quite a lot of them while they're, you know, kind of relaxing around the pool, and I ask them where they're going, you know, where their safari adventures are taking them. And quite often, you know, they express this kind of a little bit of an argument that they had with the agents about, oh, well, you know, we're going to the bush, we're going on safari, we want to go and see the elephants, we want to get to the bush as quickly as possible. And some of the agents kind of insist almost that that they have this little drop-in and decompression at Latitude hotels. And as soon as they've kind of settled in and they've had something to eat and they can get rid of a bit of their jet lag and what have you and relax by the pool, they very quickly realize the benefit of, you know, having this decompression, relaxing, having a look around the art gallery, which is how Latitude hotels tend to be referenced by the guests. Have a look around, kind of gain a little bit of insight into African city culture, which is not something that they expected when they're going on a safari. But also it really puts them in the right frame of mind, freshens them up, gets them a little bit less disorientated for their first day on their safari the next day. So there are very definite benefits, especially if you're flying from East or West Coast of the States. You've been in airports and in airplanes for the best part of 24 hours. And that after, you know, coming off that 24-hour travel is not the best way to start your safari adventure. Moving on to Latitude Zero Kampala. Latitude Zero, we started, it took us 27 months from ground zero. It is the first hotel actually where we haven't developed an existing building. We bought two properties, two residential properties right on top of a beautiful hill called Makindye Hill on the southeast, in the southeast of Kampala, with magnificent views over over Lake Victoria, and also 180-degree view down into the valley, which is the city. So we have a beautiful view over the entire city bowl. It's, as Anita said, it's the biggest property at 47 rooms. And it's the biggest property in terms of square meters that we have kind of under guest area, if you like, guest area. But what you'll see, hopefully from the photos and also the photos that are in the Dropbox link that we will share with you after this webinar, there is there is an abundance of spaces for guests to relax and really kind of stretch out and get stress-free. Rates, obviously bed and breakfast, also double occupancy. You can see from the next slide the map of where we are, that as I mentioned, we're on the southeast side of the city. You can just see there in the bottom of the map Entebbe, which is where you come in, where you would fly into if you were visiting Uganda, the international airport. And we are about 45 minutes away from Entebbe International Airport. Because we're right on the outskirts, and we're about 5 or 6 minutes away from the brand new expressway that has been built between Entebbe and Kampala. We're probably also the closest international brand hotel to Entebbe Airport in Kampala. Here you can see just a snapshot of the view, you know, over the rooftops of the city and across to the lake. This is taken from our rooftop bar, which we'll go into a bit more detail in a moment. But it's certainly one of the masterpieces and areas in the building. You can see here the See here the reception, again, like Anita was saying, you know, very, very bright, very breezy, very vibrant in its colors, you know, with bringing in, and in Kampala, because of the kind of tropical rainforest and what have you, there's lots of really bright, vibrant colors in the decor to kind of mimic that tropical rainforest. Lobby lounge straight off the reception area here. You can see, you know, the palm trees, the wall. This wall has become very famous for selfies. A lot of the guests, in fact, the vast majority of the guests, as they walk around our properties, you know, just have their phones like this in front of them, taking pictures of the amazing decor. You can see here bespoke wallpapers in the dining room, again bringing out that tropical rainforest feel, but very light, very breezy. Lots of outdoor dining at all of the properties, but significantly so at Latitude 0, with lots of outdoor spaces to stretch out in and enjoy the very temperate climates. Here we have the main bar and lounge, or the main hotel bar and lounge. As Anita said, we have the other side as well, which we'll come to. So there's two very distinct areas in all of the properties, and in Kampala, in fact, a third with the rooftop bar. But you can see here the copper bar tops, for example, which even now more than ever are going to be important with hygiene, for example, and copper being very good for hygiene. Moving on to the games room, we have in Kampala. We've kind of developed again the concept even further of the other side. So this is a feature of the other side. It's a games room. We call it the Distraction. It's a place where locals and also guests can come. They can take a game. You know, we have a pile of board games, for example, and people can just relax and socialize and while away the hours while they're while they're waiting to move on to their next adventure. The main pool area at Latitude 0 overlooks on the right-hand side here. We have that magnificent view of the lake as well. But as you can see, very relaxed, very kind of almost like a beach style vibe here around the pool. Each of the properties actually has two pools. One is a more private residence pool, and the other one is attached to kind of the area where the gym is. So it's a bit more of a lap pool and so on, but both very relaxing areas to spend time. The rooftop bar is also our sushi bar in Latitude 0, overlooking the lake. Extremely chilled, almost like an Ibiza beach bar style. Each of the three restaurants that we have at Latitude 0 has a very distinct menu. They have a very distinct cocktail list, for example, different wine lists, you know, each to complement the area of the hotel in which they are. The rooms all have either lake view or city view. Some magnificent views, and in fact, having stayed there for quite a long time myself last year, you might be tempted to go for a lake view, but in fact at night the view over the city of Kampala is quite spectacular. As you can see, the interior design, the bespoke chandeliers coming into play as well. Moroccan tiles that we bring in from Morocco. We partner with a supplier there that makes tiles in the same sort of philosophy as we create some of our interior design. So very much with a social impact background and philosophy. Each of the bathrooms also has both walk-in shower and bathtub, which is so necessary these days. And then we move on to the works. The works, obviously, as Anita said, is mainly geared towards the international business guests, but it has hot desking areas. Here you can see a very interesting sculpture, and we work, as Anita said, with lots of local artisans and artists. There's a I don't know if many of you know, but in Kampala there is quite a lot of what they call boarders. They're these motorbikes which which serve as taxis and general transport. And so we have a border bike there made by a very famous up-and-coming Ugandan sculptist called Patrick Malondo. Again, he has very, very similar philosophy to us in terms of community presence and community initiatives. And he does a lot of work with street kids and getting them off the street. You can see the map of Africa there, which is made up by recycled cogs. You know, nothing is safe when it comes to our interior design team. They will pull apart old washing machines, old crankshafts from Land Cruisers that have done their final game drive, and so on and so forth. So it just creates this really nice local vibe, but with some really bespoke pieces of art as well to kind of stimulate the conversation between the guests. Here we have one of our conference rooms. Again, going back to the decor, you can see that all of these are kind of handmade by from things that would normally be thrown away. They're given a new lease of life and become talking points in the hotel. What do we have after decor, Anita? And then we come to the other side. Again, one of the sculptures. This is the main entrance to the other side, which the other side club, which again offers our guests a completely different dining and socializing environment. We run a schedule of events. These events, some are live music, for example, all very low key, kind of acoustic rather than the big heavy kind of what you would expect on a Friday night in a pub. They're all very low key, supporting up and coming musicians as well, and just allowing guests to kind of, you know, kind of relax while there's some entertainment going on in the background. The entertainment also includes, we also try and incorporate art exhibitions to support local up and coming artists. There might be book launches in there and book readings. There may be TED-style talks. It's a very variable events program. We also have, as you can see, lots of outdoor dining space, as I mentioned, around Latitude 0, with the weather being so temperate. So for so much of the year, it's really nice to be able to explore the outside spaces, and especially the vegetation. We're very proud to note, for example, that when we built Latitude 0, we didn't chop down a single tree that was already on the two properties that we merged. So there's lots of really, really good indigenous vegetation, such beautiful bird life as well around the property. We also, in all three of the properties, have a spa, and the spa at Latitude 0 is quite magnificent. We've got 3 ensuite treatment rooms and a couples room, and also a private kind of treatment area, which is used by kind of ladies and gents that want to you know, kind of socialize with their friends and get their treatments done at the same time. And then of course also the gym, and the gym here at Latitude 0 up on the first floor really gets a beautiful breeze through it from the lake, and has a beautiful yoga deck as well under pergola off to the left hand side. And that is Latitude 0.
Thanks very much, Nicholas, for that. And I think hopefully we don't have any questions at the moment, which hopefully means we may have answered them all. But if you do have any questions, and obviously please feel free to ping them over to me. As I said, I'll be following up with you all with a copy of the recording of the webinar and some Dropbox links to all the relevant information you may need about the properties. But thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, and to Nicholas for joining me and co-hosting this webinar with me. It's much more fun doing it with someone else as well.
Thank you, Anita.
And yeah, and hopefully we'll see you at our next webinar, which is next Tuesday at 2 o'clock, which is on Zanzibar White Sands. But thank you very much for joining in again with us this afternoon, and I will follow up with you all very shortly. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks.